Some things are worth fighting for.
You are called to join the King's Guard. Or we die.
To be a warrior, you must kill your tears.
We are the homie!
Agoje issue. Agoje issue. I don't know if I don't know what the real response is, guys, but I know there was something along that line, a call and response for the warrior, which was very interesting to hear. One thing I must say, of course, is that this movie, The Woman King, is delicious. It's sweet. I enjoyed it. Of course, it's giving another Wakanda interesting production vibe, but at the same time, one thing that I must say for sure is that I think that movie makers need to know where to draw the line, especially when there's a claim that the movie we're about to see is based on a true life story. Because I mean, you could actually stick with the word inspired by true life story so that the people who understand the historical facts which a movie is tied around will be put to rest when they come out to claim that that story does not represent their history. So I think that it's best to use the word inspired by true life events rather than saying based on true life events. Well, a lot to say about this movie, The Woman King. I enjoyed watching it, but definitely I know that there is a lot of criticism online right now, and I will touch on some of this criticism and tell you why in this review of the movie, The Woman King. Lego. Hey you guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. You know I'm always excited to bring you movie reviews on my channel. My name is Moyosorolua, right here in Lagos, Nigeria. And of course, one of the things I do on my YouTube channel is movie reviews where I tell you what I think about a particular movie. And today we are pitching our tent on the global scene with the movie The Woman King. Of course, it's been a long time I reviewed a Hollywood movie. So yes, it's really good to be doing this again. And this time, this movie, of course, means so much to us here in Nigeria because we also have our own boy on the movie. And yes, I will be telling you all about that in just a little bit. So please, if you are checking out my video for the very first time, do not forget to subscribe, like, and share this video, and even comment. Let me know what you think about the movie down below because I would definitely love to read from you. If you've not seen the movie The Woman King, well, do not worry. I will try as much as possible not to give spoilers. You can of course tell that this movie is also very important to me as a person because it also tells the African story or African history, particularly as it concerns some Nigerian empires as we know them in the past. So I will be giving the historical approach for this movie more than what we saw in the movie itself because that's where the debate is right now across social media. So in case you do not know what I do with movie reviews here on my channel, well, you definitely know that you'll be hearing a bit about the story, the cast, the production, the location of the movie, and everything that makes the movie good and maybe everything that makes the movie fall short at the same time. So let's quickly get into this as fast as possible because I do not intend for this movie review to be too long, even though I already envisaged it because of a bit of history that I will be dishing out in this movie review. Now, let's quickly get to the cast first before I get to the story because that might take a while to elaborate based on the debate that we have currently on social media at the moment. So this movie predominantly has a female cast, and that's because it's telling the story of female warriors. They were known as the Daomi Amazon or the Daomi warriors or the Agojes. This story we can trace back to the 18th or 19th century. So leading the female warriors, we have Naniska, played by Viola Davis. We also have a popular English actor, Lashana Lynch, who played Izoji. We add Thuso Mbedu, who is a South African actress, and she played the role of Nawi. And we also had Sheila Atemanuganda, British actress, who played the role of Amenza. Apart from this, I saw Angelique Kidjo somewhere right there in the movie, even though I almost couldn't process because I'm like, is that really Angelique Kidjo? And yes, Angelique Kidjo is a famous musician who has won several Grammys, and she is from Benin Republic. She played the role of the Munon. I think that's how it sounded. Apart from that, we had the male folks who were led by John Boyega, who played the role of King Gezo, and our very own Jimmy Odukoya, who played the role of Obade. And there was also Jordan Volga, who played the role of Malik, the half Portuguese and half Daumen guy who came back to Daume in the movie as well. So yes, I think these are some of the people worthy of mention in the movie, although it was a very, very large cast, but these are some of the people I'm going to focus on for the purpose of this review. So that's majorly the cast, and of course, let's quickly get to the story. This movie tells the story of the Agoges, also known as Daume Amazon. And according to the movie, the Agoges, also known as the Daume Amazons, were predominantly female warriors who fought for the Daume Empire back in the 18th century. And one of the things that this movie portrays is the strength of this female army, because according to the story, they were in charge of fighting for Daume Empire, who was a very rich and big empire in the 18th century, rich because they had strong involvement in slave trade, and they carried out a lot of conquest and continually expanded the kingdom. So the Agoges, or the Daume Amazons, the female warriors, were those who would go out to fight the battles of the empire, and they would usually come back conquering more land, getting slaves and all that stuff, for the kingdom. Because of the time this movie was set up, because it focused on the time in the 1820s, which was during the reign of King Gezo, who was, a more relaxed king, but at the time, because a lot of people had done the work before he became king, the empire was now rich and recognized, and it was also the tail end of the slave trade. Even though we still saw a lot of activities under King Gezo, the Agodes, that's the Daume Amazons, were more known, and more recognized under King Gezo. So that's why this story was tied to the reign of King Gezo, because that was when the Daume Amazons, or the Agodes, became really, prominent and known in history. Interestingly, the story also explored some of the sufferings of slaves at the time, the way they were raped by these slave traders, and all of the things they had to go through in the hands of the slave masters. Particularly, we saw that happen between Obade, who is Jimmy, and Naniska, a role played by Viola Davis, and how that sort of birthed hatred, bitterness. At the time, she had now reason to become a warrior, and a need for retaliation on Obade. So we saw all of that. We saw those emotions put into it. Another angle of the movie that I didn't see coming is the part of the vulnerability on the path of Naniska, who, we were told had a child from the experience with Obade, and then, she gave the child away, but somehow the child came back and joined the Agoges, and, all of the things that happened in between. We saw vulnerability, we saw the pride of motherhood, we saw the pain of motherhood as well. All of that was mixed into the story, and those are some of the things that made me ask the question, did this really happen? One thing I'm going to say as I continue with this review is that there was nowhere from all of the things I've read which showed that there was actually a Naniska part among the Agoges, nor showed all of the things that we saw in this movie. However, from my readings, I realized that there was indeed the Daume Amazons, which is of course known to a lot of people who studied history, but not so much was said about their personal life. All we knew was that King Gezo, at the time of his reign, because the Daume Amazon had started growing before the reign of King Gezo. In fact, it had started growing from the third king of the Daume Empire, known as King Uwegbaja. And King Uwegbaja had started building this team of women who were at the time elephant hunters, and they started growing gradually. They were only playing ceremonial roles, and I think at some time under the reign of King Agaja, who I think that was about the 6th, 7th king of the Daume Empire, they had started growing to become a warrior group. And then by the time we had King Gezo, they had fully become the major army of the Daume Empire. So I mean, you can begin to put all of that into play and see where it is coming from. But no place did I read anything about their personal life, that we saw play out in this movie, which is exploring the personal life of one of the Agoges, or leader of the Agoges, in person of Viola Davis. So now this better the question, is this really based on true life events? Why is it getting backlash on social media? Why wouldn't people just accept it as a movie that it is and just enjoy this tale that we saw in this movie? Well, I'm going to answer that question later on, but that's basically a bit of the story we saw. And if you saw the trailer, you would see that we're introduced to a villain known as Obade. Obade is a military ruler in the Oyo Empire who was in the forefront of the slave activities of the Oyo Empire, as well as ensuring that everyone or every city or empire who has tributary role to the Oyo Empire fulfilled that role. So now this is the connection. We had the Daomi Empire that had become really notable for their activities in slave trade. And you would know, of course, that at the time, any empire that engaged in slave trade activity would naturally experience a boom. So the Daomi Empire grew stronger, financially, economically, status-wise, in the face of the slave traders at the time, because they had so much money and they were building army, getting a lot of slaves to be part of the army, so they were strong. So Daomi Empire grew rich as a result of slave trade at the time, but this did not still place them on the same status as the Oyo Empire, which we know according to history had regional power. So because of their growth, there was naturally a face-off between Daomi Empire and Oyo Empire throughout history at the time of Daomi Empire's growth. However, for every time that face-off happened, the Oyo Empire would naturally conquer the Daomi Empire. This made the Daomi Empire agree to pay tribute to Oyo Empire, even though they had almost reached the same status economically, at the time due to slave trade engagement. So that's where Obade come in, because Obade was introduced as the one in the front, of the military activities, I think along the Atlantic coast for the Oyo Empire. So he was in charge of their slave trade activities and trading. He was also in charge of collecting tributes from Daomi Empire, and that's why you would usually see him go to the Daomi Empire, which had King Gezo as king and Viola Davis as the head of the warriors known as the Agoje. So that was basically that was basically the major part of the story. So it was Daomi versus Oyo Empire, and right there in the middle we have the Portuguese, the British, who were those that were buying slaves from both of them. So that's what we had play out in this story, and that brings the question: why are people angry? Why are they not accepting this story? What really is going on? Well, I would answer all of that so that you will understand what people are saying about the movie on social media. So now that I'm done with the story, is it a fascinating story? Of course, yes. Would it have been better? Yes, if it was not said to be a true life story. That is basically the story. Let's quickly move on to some other things before I answer some of the questions that is betting the boycott hashtag of Woman King on social media. Let's get to the production. This movie was predominantly shot in South Africa. Why South Africa? I wouldn't know, but I know that it was shot in South Africa. It's the home of one of the stars in the movie, Nawi, played by Thuso Mbedu. In case you did not know, Dahomey is located in present-day Benin, and the story, The Woman King, actually was born out of a visit to Benin in 2017, and then, these people, you know how it is when foreigners visit a particular place that has strong historical facts tied around them, you want to explore. So it was based on that visit that this story was formed, The Woman King. I don't know what they were told. If this story was something that was related to them, I wouldn't know, but I know that it was written off that visit to Benin here in Nigeria. They've tried to get production companies to drop money for the movie, but none came through until maybe 2020 when they got the green light, and they started shooting in 2021. COVID came, they had to shut it down for a bit, and then they returned back early this year in 2022, filmed the movie, and now we have The Woman King. So yes, when I say that Nigerians have a lot, of stake in this movie, I know what I'm saying. So let's quickly get to the review itself. And when I say the review itself, I'm talking about the production. How did they do? If we're going to look at this story away from all of the historical facts, noise, misrepresentation, or whatever it is, a lot of people are screaming on social media, this movie is good. And when I say good, I mean good. It's giving me 100% another Wakanda vibe. Even though the use of technology in Wakanda gave it a more interesting feel, I think that this movie has strong personalities, strong cast, strong production, strong everything as much as Wakanda did. Apart from technology, which probably made Wakanda, higher in rating than this particular movie. Yes, another thing that I must say about the movie is that the cast did a fantastic job. I felt every bit of it. I felt the emotion, I felt the acting, I felt the fight scenes, I felt everything. Everything I was supposed to feel in this movie, I felt it. And the story, again, back to the story and the drama on social media. Now, the drama on social media is tied around the fact that the Dahomey Empire that we know based on history is not particularly an empire to be celebrated. The debate is that Dahomey Empire carried out the most gory aspect of slave trade back in the day, because they were the one who was in the forefront of engaging in slave trading, capturing, killings, sacrificing, and the kings or the leaders at the time were growing off some of these things, and there were a lot of gory things that the Dahomey Empire had to do to feed off their slave trade status at the time. And that's why a lot of people are asking the questions, should such an empire, and of course the warriors who helped the empire to carry out some of this disgusting and questionable acts, be celebrated in today's age and time? That's basically the issue on social media right now. And that's why I said maybe this wouldn't have happened if the makers of this movie did not put forward the movie as a true life story. Maybe it would have been more accepted if they had stuck with the narrative that this movie, the fact that we ever had a group of warriors led by female, this movie was just inspired. It's a different thing. They would have just said inspired by the fact that we once had female warriors. However, because it's interesting when you hear that there's a true life story, you want to see how history is being told. That's why we're having this backlash on social media, knowing fully well that the team, the warrior, the empire is portrayed as the good one, while the Oyo Empire, military leader, Obade, is portrayed as the villain in the movie, and then is even the one seen majorly involved in slave capturing and all that stuff. Meanwhile, in history, in true life events, Dahomey was majorly involved in most of the things, even as much more than Obade when it comes to slave trading and all that stuff in between. And that's why I personally feel that it would have been more honorable for the movie makers to have stuck with the narrative that this was just a reimagination of history. They were just telling it in their own way of saying, okay, this is what we wish they were like, because what they are telling us they worked on is not what the Dahomey Empire represented or what the Amazons in itself represented at the time. But away from that drama, did I enjoy the movie? Of course I did. Production was good. The storytelling was good. The acting was good. If it had nothing to do with history in the real sense, I would say that this is one of the best movies I've ever seen. But because I studied history, because I'm African, because I know how gory the slave trade era was, I definitely share the sentiment of everyone who is out there saying right now that you can't portray Dahomey Empire as the good one, not in this life, not in the year after, because to be very honest, they did no good, in the real sense, when as far as slave trade is concerned. So I really understand that narrative, and that's where I'm going to pitch my tent as well. Even though in the real sense of things, I enjoyed the movie. I really enjoyed the movie. Another thing that worked for me in this movie is how the story was told. I mean, some of the lessons that a lot of people are taking out of this, regardless, is the strength of the women, is the strength the female gender possess, and how, if properly utilized, we're going to see them do exploits. Like in the case of as it was in the case of Nawi, who was a young girl that was adopted by another family, and she was about to be given away as a bride, and she knew that was not what she wanted, so she was headstrong. Eventually, it was also at the time where King Gezo was calling for families to bring forth their female child who they thought was strong enough to join their gojes. So because she was always sending away suitors, our adopted parent decided to give her off to King Gezo to join their gojes, and they were trained by Naniska, who is Viola Davis. Eventually, when she joined their gojes, we saw how the whole story unveiled, and how Naniska later discovered that this Nawi girl, who was shining very much in the amongst the new recruits, very stubborn and all that stuff, is our daughter that she gave away a long time ago. How she found out, well, you might want to see the movie, because I don't want to say more than this for those who have not seen the movie. Another thing that we saw in line with lessons in the movie, apart from the female strength, is motherhood. I mean, this is something that I really enjoy to watch being told, in movies, because it just really makes me understand what it means to be a woman, especially in line with procreation. You could see the love that the bond Naniska shared with this female in the army, regardless of whatever they did, as much as she was their leader, she was also looking out for them. And I think that was really beautiful to watch. Eventually, when she met Nawi, we also saw how the emotions played out in there, which is almost natural for a female. So I think I also enjoyed watching that part of the story as well, the bond, the strength, motherhood tale that was told. I enjoyed the narrative. I also enjoyed the narrative of friendship. And when I say friendship, I'm talking about the friendship between Amenza and Naniska, who were friends, and they were both leaders of the army. They were both leaders of the female army, and we could see true friendship portrayed between them, and that was really interesting to watch as well. I also enjoyed watching Lashana Lynch, who played the role of Izoge, and Izoge is Izoge is the army driller. She was the one drilling them. We saw her strength, and her death as well, was very emotional for me. I couldn't bear the fact that she died, eventually, but she was definitely courageous, and that's one thing that I enjoyed watching all through. Another thing that I enjoyed watching in this movie is the musical. If you follow my review, you would know that I always talk about how adopting or fixing music in movie is a beautiful thing to do, and they found a way to do this in the movie. The chanting, the songs the female warriors sang when they're about to step out, it was all too beautiful. Their voices, the harmony, oh my god, it was amazing. The stunt in the movie was definitely interesting to see as well. You could tell that they put in a lot of work to learn all of those things, and I enjoyed watching them. The directing was interesting. The adaptation of language and accent was also interesting as well. I loved how they were able to, stick to the accent, the original accent of these people. I mean, you could hear the Nigerian accent and the blend somewhere in there, especially from Oba Ade, as well as John Boyega, who played King Gezo. I loved the retention of the accent. It was beautiful to see on that global scale, because usually you would see people want to twist the accent. I love that it was retained. And then another thing that I loved watching in the movie is the humor. John Boyega was very immersed. I enjoyed watching him. The lines here and there were also very immersed, and it was just really interesting that we could go from laughing 1 minute to holding our seats tight because of a fight scene, to being emotional because of something that is about to happen, to the tears. It was just really interesting seeing the mix of emotion and how they were able to take us on those rides in and out. I just really enjoyed all of those things. It was a near perfect movie for me, apart from the historical, drag that we have in there. It was definitely a near perfect movie for me, one that I would see over and over again. I only wish that we didn't have this historical tussle, attached to the movie, because it would have done excellently well. I know that this historical tussle would make a lot of people not go see the movie, which would definitely not give the movie the push that it deserves. But apart from that, looking at it from a movie and taking away the historical debacle, I think that it was a great watch, an amazing watch. But one thing I really did not see as realistic is how Naniska was able to sense all of a sudden that Nawi is her daughter. It happened almost too easily for me. Another thing I almost did not enjoy is how Naniska was able to defeat Obade, which I felt was rather too cheap. Somewhere in there. And then, as another thing I didn't enjoy is how someone we said was a Portuguese Daomian was more of a Portuguese than a Daomian, right? Because I don't know, I think it was his mother, right? I think it was his mother that was a slave, and then taken to Portugal, met a father, and then they gave birth to him. I'm talking about Malik, but I felt like it was more it was, even though he tried to give a striking balance, and we saw him maintain a bit of an accent in the Portuguese way, in the Daume way, but I'm not sure I liked that particular representation, because I also read online where someone was saying Malik had to be Portuguese, right? Why can't it be African? Why can't it be an African person? Why must it be a Portuguese representation somewhere in there? And how Nawi was falling for him. It just really, it was not giving the vibe that I wanted, but I could also still allow it, because we know that there was a lot of mixture and blend of, some of these foreigners at the time, in line with the activities in the slave trade era. But basically, all in all, The Woman King is a beautiful movie. I've told you why there's a lot of drag online at the moment. It's based on the historical representation of the Daomi Empire as a heroic empire, contrary to what we know history to be. And that's why a lot of people are talking online right now. But again, repeating again, I must say that this movie is definitely worth your watch, worth the wow, worth your time. Okay, I enjoyed it so much, and I think that you should go out to see it and just close your mind to the fact that this might not exactly be talking about history at the end of the day. It's just a movie someone conceived out of something they heard happened back in time. After that, it really is a great movie. Who should be seeing it? Anyone who loves to see good movies should see this movie. You would definitely enjoy it, and because I did enjoy it. And if I were to be rating it without any bias, I would be giving it a 7/10, and that's devoid of all of the historical drama that we currently see online at the moment. Well, I think this is everything I can say right now about the movie The Woman King. There are so many angles to explore, but I think these are some of the things I just would be dishing out for the sake of this review. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Let me know your high points, your low points as well, and some of the things that worked for you in this particular movie. I will be coming back very shortly with more, particularly the movie Brotherhood that's coming to cinema this weekend. Trust me, I can't wait. I heard it's good. I was at the premiere, but I couldn't wait to see it. But I heard it's good, and I can't wait to tell you all about it after I see it this weekend. Guys, that's all about it. My name is Moyoserolua. Thank you for stopping by to watch this video. I'll see you in the next one. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment down below, because I would love to read from you. Till next time, goodbye.